Hi everyone, welcome to another video. I am super excited because today I'm going over my dressage test. Next weekend is Rowan and I's first outing of the season. We're doing an unaffiliated derby, which is basically the same thing as a one-day event, but it's more casual. We get to school the whole cross-country course the day before, so it's a Saturday-Sunday event. But if you know, and you're in the US, you'll probably have heard that all of the USEA dressage tests are brand new this year, and my memory is not so good. I also really struggle with reading and letters, so it's really important for me to really drill in the dressage test so that I feel prepared, I feel like I remember it. I go over it at home, like in the house, with a piece of paper first, again and again and again, and I read through it, and then I go out and ride it how I would at a competition, and then I ride different elements. So I'm going to show you today, in today's video, how I prepare specifically for the dressage portion of an event. I have to go through it for me to remember every element in the test until it becomes muscle memory, because when I enter the arena at a competition, I go completely blank. But I also wanted to show you how I set up the small court dressage arena, because we are doing the training level test A. So if you need to remember it, please, skip ahead and watch the test. It's really helpful for me, at least, to watch someone else ride it and then go over it, but there aren't any videos, so hopefully this will be helpful. I'm really excited, but I'm also really nervous. Every time I've gone over the test in my head, I get like horrible butterflies because I get nervous like I'm actually there. So I think riding, gaining confidence through repetition and practice will help me. And then hopefully this will help you guys. What I'll do is I'll section it off so that it's an accurate 20 by 40 meter dressage court. And what I'll be using to do that, just my ground poles, and then I also have some dressage letters that I haven't put up yet, so it makes it really easy. I can just set them up on the ground, and then a meter wheel. Before I had like nice letters, and before I had poles even to go over my dressage test at home, I just found a flat space in one of the pastures. I purchased some like foam board that had stakes you could put in the ground, and it was super cheap, and then I just wrote on it with a Sharpie each letter, and that just really helped me memorize a test and practice our geometry. But now I'm really fortunate to be able to practice in an arena, so that makes it a lot easier. But you don't need to have a proper riding arena to do this. You just need some flat space, safe footing, and then if you want to invest anything, like a small amount, you could purchase that like foam core type boards that you use at, I think people usually buy them for like garage sale signs with the stakes, and then whatever else you have to mark the ground. You could even use just like a ground marking spray, and then you can practice your test. So anyways, I'm showing you in my arena, but I didn't have this last year or the year before, so you can do it without it. I'm going to start at the end, have it on 0 right in the corner, and I will go 6 meters from the corner. This is where M will go with the way I have it oriented. From M, it will be 14 meters right here, and then right in the middle will be on the side B. And then from B, the next letter we need to put out is F, which is another 14 meters. And then from F, we have another 6 meters to the corner. Here's the end result. I have just my ground poles kind of giving me a corner and a barrier here. And then usually at the competition, they'll have a kind of out like this jotted out, so you have to ride in at an angle, which makes it that much more difficult to ride straight down the center line. So I thought that I would set that up, and then everything is set up, hopefully correct. And that took me actually a very long time. So if you have a friend, maybe try to do it together. I'm gonna bring Rowan in and bring my meter wheel back to the barn. And the next time I see you, I will be doing our warm-up for our dressage test. And I haven't gone through my dressage test since I was in the house, so it's been about an hour, and I don't remember. Hopefully, once I start thinking about it, it'll come back. But right now I've got nothing, so we'll see.
Oh no! What happened? Oh my gosh.
What was that? What a good girl. Thank you. XK, trot at A, is that right?
I don't know.
Trot at E, half. So I just wanted to emphasize what it is that I focus on during our warm-ups, particularly before a test, and then also kind of what I'm trying to focus on in our actual ride past the warm-up to prepare for the test, because it is really important to not overdo your test. Then they'll start to anticipate. Rowan doesn't really anticipate too much. I'm really lucky in that regard. I try to do a little bit of a lower frame, walk, trot, and then do lots of transitions, make sure she is moving off my leg. She doesn't look like it, but she is very, very lazy. And that sometimes means I push too much past her balance because of that lack of response from my lower leg. So it's really nice to see that she's moving off my leg in the transitions and sitting back on her hind end. For Rowan especially, I always do a stretchy trot, a stretchy walk, make sure she's stretching over her back and supple through her body, in particular her neck, because she does carry a lot of tension in her neck. And there she was really stretching low, so it's really nice to give her a pat and encourage her for kind of putting in that extra effort. While we're stretching, I like to do different things to change it up rather than just a circle. So I'll do a serpentine, like a 3-loop serpentine, and then I will practice our downward because I'd like for her to step into the walk instead of stall down into a walk. So she's keeping the impulsion even in the downward. So I'll do that by asking and assuming she'll do it. And then if she doesn't, then I'll do a half, almost a walk, and then right back to trot. It gets her on her hind end, responding to my leg, and then she doesn't start assuming that we're walking and stopping. It keeps her active and engaged. So in the canter, I'll think kind of the same way, do little transitions within the gait, make sure she's got a lower frame so she can stretch over her back. So if she's feeling a little bit behind the leg, I will do a lengthen down the long side and then bring it back to just a regular working canter, stretchy in the corner, and make sure she doesn't break into the trot. And there, the downward, she was expecting a walk, so I just went right ahead to lengthening on the diagonal. This is something that comes up in the test anyway, so I wanted to practice it in the warm-up. As I start to pick up the reins a little bit, I'll make sure that she's still feeling supple through the body, and in particular through the neck. And then I will do another lengthen, this time on the circle because that is what is being asked in the test. And I want to be able to bring her back and have a noticeable difference without her breaking into a trot. And then I'll do another lengthen down the long side because that felt a little bit sluggish. I really want her to kind of surge forward and then be able to come back and sit on the hind end. When I go from lengthen to working trot, she just got stuck in her neck, so I'll do an outside bend to an inside and then start incorporating some lateral work, so I'll do shoulders in both ways. This really helps her to think about her feet and then get a good bend through the body. Something that my trainer has always encouraged me to do is a lot of lateral work in the warm-up before going into a test, and that just helps them supple through the body, especially if they're a bit lazy. It's making sure that they're able to do different things and still keep the tempo. And then we practice a halt, which wasn't super square. I'll go right back to a trot again, and then I'll ask a halt again before we go for a walk break. And that was quite a bit better. Not perfect, but I was really happy. And so I'll give her a walk break and complain about the cramp that I have, and that's back to work. So this is a little bit more work that I need to get done for the test. Something that we struggle with is keeping a good rhythm and good geometry during our stretchy trot circle, which is asked in the test, of course. And this is the element that I always forget every single time. If I forget something, it's the stretchy trot circle. So going from the stretch to the regular frame is difficult, and what we have to do in the test is go from stretchy trot, working trot, and then right into a canter, and that comes up really fast. She can get really wiggly and kind of resistant to picking up the frame after her little vacation of stretching, and that's understandable, but it's just something that we really need to work on. And then making sure she has that adjustability in the higher frame within the canter is what I'm doing there. And so basically what I love to do before riding a test and then in between riding tests at home is I'll practice each element, especially the ones that we struggle with, but at different points in the arena, because I don't want her to anticipate. And then here I'm just doing a little bit of canter walks, which really help her sit on the hind end. And then I'll do another lengthen and bring her back so she has really good adjustability within the canter. So helping her engage the hind end through canter walk transitions is really helpful. So to start with, before I ride any of our tests, I always will canter either a circle before we go in, or I'll canter around the perimeter of the outside of the arena if that's allowed. And it just gets her moving off my leg, and then we transition downward to a trot and then enter the ring, because she's a bit more surging forward and showing off her really lovely trot to the judge. So going down the center line, she seems pretty straight, but it is a little hard to tell. Something that I really have been wanting to work on is making sure I'm not rushing through the test, because I tend to push her past her point of balance, and then it looks like we're kind of scrambling through the test, and we end up writing a 4-minute test in about 3 minutes. Our lengthen at the canter looked pretty good. I've tried to bring her back. And there her haunches are just kind of coming to the inside of the arena, so I'll need to balance her with my inside leg. But that was a pretty good downward. Our walk transition was actually pretty good. She's keeping the tempo, and something that I really do often is push her too forward in the walk. Here in the free walk, she was a little bit lacking. I'd love for her nose to come down a little bit, but she is keeping a good pace and has some pretty good overtrack. And then we always struggle with free walk to a medium walk because she just gets a little bit resistant to bringing her frame back up. And so I'll do it really slowly. We pick up the trot, and then that's where I'm able to pick her up, because the next part is the infamous stretchy trot circle. And here it really wasn't too bad for what we've been doing at home, but we still can't get the circle. It's not great geometry, and I'd love for her nose to come out and down a little bit more. And I'm able to get a good trot here before our canter transition. And then I really want to see her surge forward in the lengthening, which she does. She's very responsive to my leg here, but I don't want it to get strung out. It's almost strung out. And then I bring her back a little bit early. And then getting ready for a downward transition, I'll do a little inside flexion to keep her hind end straight. And this, I feel like we're doing a good job staying in the moment instead of rushing through, and ride in the corners for our lengthen. And that was actually fairly good, because sometimes I can really push her too fast. Instead of her stride just getting bigger, she kind of just trots a bit faster. And then there we lost a little bit of consistency in her pace. We'll do our half 10-meter circle. And then if I remember correctly, it's not very good. My 10-meter circle was not good, and that was not a straight shot to G. And then halt, salute, but I just wanted to trot away really quick so that she didn't think she was completely done yet, and then we can walk and then celebrate the test.